Okay, so when I decided I was going to try breeding over the hot months, I knew I was going to have to do everything I could to make these guys more comfortable. Now, they're going to get ambient air temperatures no matter what I do, but it's a lot easier to be in 100-degree heat if you're not getting any direct sunlight, if you have water available not just for drinking but for bathing in, and if you have solid shade and air movement. So keeping all those in mind, I did some updating on the breeder shed. Now, I had already put this shiny insulation stuff. See, it's shiny on both sides with this, you know, 1/4 inch of insulation right down the middle, and the stuff is like blackout. You get no heat and no light through it, so it's like solid shade. But there was a canvas painter's tarp underneath it that I use for the winter time. Now, the part of the purpose of the canvas tarp is to stop wind. So this stuff obviously stops airflow, but the surface of it is very smooth and slick. So air can flow around it easier than the tarp. The tarp as a canvas tarp actually grabs air and hangs onto it. And we don't want that. We want air movement. So I had to take the tarp off and add this little section on the bottom over here because this side gets really sunny and hot. So I took it almost to the ground and almost to the top, but not quite. This is the west side, so it gets hotter than you know what, but there needs to be air movement in there, so I can't take it all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom. And that corner right over there has nothing on it because it's in the shade all day, and it allows for all kinds of air movement. I did the same thing on the other side. I came out here this morning and realized it's hotter inside here than outside because this side had only a canvas tarp on it that went, 2 inches from the top to 2 inches from the bottom. So it was stopping all airflow, and yet the morning sun, which we're in a kind of a forest here, but we do get direct light in late morning for about 2 or 3 hours, was beaming down on the canvas, and the canvas was getting hot and holding the heat. So, if we're going to suffer from the heat, let's suffer for as few hours as possible. There's absolutely no reason to be dying of the heat in the morning hours. So I pulled the canvas off and put the solid reflector on it. This is 6-foot-high building, and that's a 4-foot strip. But I have another 1-foot strip, so I'm going to come out here tomorrow morning. I think I will probably end up lowering this a little bit because it's a little bit higher than the bottom of the lowest cage, although that does do nice things for airflow. And the air coming off this side in the afternoon is cool because it's shaded over here. It's in a forest, basically. So I put the fan down here, put it on a timer, comes on at about 11 o'clock or 12 noon, and starts sucking the cold air from down there and blowing it up and across to the top up here to get it out. So that's going to encourage airflow. So like I said, tomorrow morning I'll come out and see where I can best put that last strip of 1 foot wide at the top or the bottom. I may move this a little bit. And then of course the other measure that I took is my plates. These are ceramic plates. I got them from Walmart for like $3 or $4 a piece. Better homes. I leave them sitting out here so the birds can look at them. They're used to looking at them. And what I'm going to do is any day that it gets over 90 degrees, instead of putting water in their water bowls, I will slide this plate in the front door of their cage. The front doors of these cages, the big one opens up pretty wide. And fill this with water and stick a lettuce leaf in it. And they will spend all day standing in the water. These are heavy ceramic plates, and with the water evaporating off of them, they will stay cool, relatively speaking. And the lettuce leaf floating in the water encourages them to get in it and start messing around. So they can keep themselves cool when the temperatures are over 90 degrees. So right now it's 87. He doesn't look like he's suffering too much. Neither do they. Neither do they. 87. So these guys, their body temperatures are 104 degrees. And what that means is they can tolerate much more heat than us humans who have a paltry body temperature of 98 degrees. So what happens to human beings is if you put us in a situation where the temperature is over 98 degrees, then we can't cool off. And we start getting into danger of heat stroke, okay? Because our bodies are not meant to be more than 98 degrees. Now, think of the difference. 6 degrees doesn't sound like a lot at first thought. But think of the difference between 98 degrees and 104 degrees. How often does it get to be 104 degrees as opposed to 98? Well, where I live, we'll be in the 90s off and on for most of the summer. But we'll only hit the hundreds maybe a half a dozen days the whole year. So I don't really have to worry about these guys dying of heat prostration until the temperatures get up close to 104 degrees. There are whole years that go by when we never reach 104 degrees here. It just doesn't get that hot. Well, it does. Occasionally we have a heat wave where it gets over 104, but we'll go whole years where that doesn't happen. So, and a part of my commitment that I made to myself and to my birds when I decided to try breeding in the hot season was, if the temperatures get to approach 104 degrees, I will pack up all 8 of these cages with nest boxes and go carry them into the house for the day, to make sure nobody expires. So, but in the meantime, once we get up to 90 degrees, I'm going to start taking, I'm doing everything I can to make sure they have air circulation and no direct sunlight and heavy shade, and the structure itself doesn't get hot. There is that silver stuff is stapled up there on the wooden ceiling on top so that the wood doesn't get hot. So everything about this is insulated to try and keep them cool. And like I said, once temperatures get above 90 degrees, I start filling plates with water and lettuce leaves. That's going to happen later this week. I'll take a picture. Look at these two. Oh, the other thing is the nest boxes are little ovens. They are much better for keeping warm than they are for keeping cool. So the blessing, though, is that their lids open upward, and of course heat rises. So I have a bunch of toothpicks here, and what's going to happen is when we get up to 95 degrees, I will lift the lid. I'm not going to do that one because she's in there. I'll lift the lid and stick a toothpick in there to hold it open a little bit, just like that, because that's just enough to let the heat escape out of it so that it doesn't become an oven in there. Now, when the hens are sitting on eggs, they can, they're able to decide whether they need to be sitting on that egg or not. So, like, Fluffy right here laid an egg this morning. She's not sitting on it right now because it's plenty warm in there. She can stay off of it for quite a while without having to worry about it cooling down. She'll go back in again, check on it, and come back out again. But they have much more freedom to not be stuck in that nest box all the time if they're sitting on eggs in warm weather. Because the eggs, if it's 87 degrees out here, the egg is not going to cool off very fast. So she can leave it. See here, this one's coming out too. She's probably getting a little hot in there. She can leave it for a little while and not have to worry about the embryo dying because it's not going to cool off radically. But I will, once they have babies, the babies cannot escape the nest boxes. So the hens, of course, can choose to get out of that nest box when it starts to get too hot, come outside, get a drink of water, do what they need to do. But the babies can't do that. So once babies start hatching, I will stick the toothpicks in there at 90 degrees instead of 95. The hens don't like it when I do that. It disturbs their little souls to have anything inside their nest box change. But I've never had any serious problems with it. So So, I have not seen this girl pace the entire time I've been in here. And somebody has a bloody head. She bit him. But apparently they worked it out. In fact, the fact that they had a fight and she bit him and pulled some of his feathers out of his head and made him bleed tells me that they're making progress. I mean, that is an interaction, even though it's a negative one. And she is not doing any pacing. And look at these two. Oh, he just saw me point the camera at him, but he's warbling and singing and acting more interested in her because Crazy isn't up here driving him nuts. So, this happened. I bet I will see her in that nest box in the next couple of days. She's been peering in it all along. And she's eaten a significant amount of that cuddle bone, too. But she's finally, thanks to Bond here, getting it together and, you know, behaving herself. I saw him feeding her again today, so they're definitely moving in the right direction. And these two, this mama here is fat, is a heavy hen, so she's hot, I can tell. But, oh look, the door is open. But they were just so happy to be back together again, so, well, I hope you don't lay infertile eggs. I hope your love for him is worthy. All right. So, getting ready for the heat. Yeah, there's fans set to come on at noon and go off at 7 p.m. To keep the air moving in here. And like I said, and we're going to hit 99 next weekend, so you'll hear all about that too. But they're just not suffering all that much. See, the hens can come out. She's got an egg in there, but she checked on it. It's fine. This one too, she's got an egg in there. It's not going anywhere, and it's not going to get cold. So, she can come out. And I think that's almost better for the hen. Because one of the things that I've noticed is when I have hens that have sat when the weather is cold and they never come out of that box, by the time they're done raising their chicks, I put them out on a big flight, they cannot fly. Because they've been stationary so long. So, all right, you two. Come on. Quit dragging your feet. He's a beauty. You know he is, Miss Thing. Get busy. All right. So, that's it for the heat update.